Hey, what's up guys, welcome back to Michael's Millennial Money. Today I want to share with you the frugal living tips that I did learn from Mark Cuban.
So the next thing, he owned a slug of equity and did just fine.
AudioNet did better than just fine.
Never before in the history of the world can you come in and listen to almost any team from anywhere in the world. You know, a little PC and a connection to the net, and you might as well be sitting in Bloomington, Indiana.
Very successful person today, but I like his story, how he went actually from zero, how he was hustling in university. Then he sold his first company when he was almost 30 years old. So there was a big gap in between, and actually I did learn his frugal living tips like when I was younger, and I'm actually following them, most of them. Some of them are crazy, but some of them are very doable. So with that being said, let's get ready for the video. You can support me with a like or subscribe. Recently there was a news from Mark Cuban that he sold like his ownership at Dallas Maverick, which is NBA team, right? That he bought it like for 300 millions 20 years ago, right? And he made quite a bit of money on it, and he actually recreated that kind of team as well. And I did read one of his book, like The Art of Winning in a Life, Business and Sports, and he was founding and actually is finding a common denominator when you are trying to make it in the life, business and sport. There are very similar things and aspects you might follow as well. So I actually really like him because I kind of see myself when he was at my age, you know, because starting from zero, he was hustling. Just the difference is that it was years ago, and he's living in Austin, Texas, or he was, right? That's where he started his companies and so on. So pretty much I would say it's very similar. I think he was even doing door-to-door sales. So, you know, there is a lot of common things that I have with him. Actually, last summer I was in front of his house in big mansion in Dallas. Anyway, so his first tip is actually don't buy expensive car until age of 25. Why is it important? Just because when you are younger, you don't make a lot, and if you do, you shouldn't spend them on random crap. You should reinvest them and create some assets, some net worth, right? So I was following his rules actually until recently, right? I'm 24 now, and I just bought my first car like recently, right? It's like Tesla, and I resell them, so I make money on them and I drive them and so on. But when I was 20, and I could buy the Tesla, right? But I didn't, because I knew I might kind of slow my like growth in the future. So that's why I didn't want to do it when I was in university, like this kind of spending. It just kind of like slows you down. Of course, there are some people saying you shouldn't do it, you should do it. It depends what you kind of want, how much you make and so on. So there are so many different aspects on that. But it's just working with me, kind of be frugal or be kind of in the back, let's say, you know, that you don't have to be showing off at early age or so on, or you don't have to enjoy that much at an early age, because I do see life as a long journey, so I can enjoy from 27 or 28, and I'm always enjoying even like from 20-year-old. But there are just some people saying you should blow your money and so on. I don't agree 100%, right? So that's the first rule, like when you make some money, don't spend them on the cars. I know it's hard to do, because for me it was commitment, and I always felt bad when I was going home from school by train, not because it was train, but because that it took me like 3 hours instead of 1 hour. A lot of people there, you know, and it was just kind of like not pleasant thing to do. So that's why I always like when I have a nice car, it's like I can kind of compare it, right? Because when I didn't have any money, I had to go by trains and so on, and it was not so cool, let's say. Second frugal living tip from Mark Cuban is actually that find a roommate. And you know what? I done it too. That's what I'm doing right now. It doesn't make sense for me to rent like big apartment, big house for me, because you know what? I'm not there a lot. So I don't see a reason to spend all my money that I make on my accommodation. So what I do, I just live with the students. I have one room, it's very decent. I have roommates, which I enjoy. Everybody has a private room, so you know, you have some privacy, right? And I enjoy talking with them and so on, because you know what, I'm a bit lonely. Like last half a year or year, like I'm pretty much just by myself. Like all my friends are like 400 miles from Prague, so I'm just on my own. I would say last couple of years, not even months, because in the United States I work alone as well. So I kind of enjoy any company, right? And they are even like paying rent with me together. So instead of spending like $1,000 or more on monthly rent. I spend like $250, so not bad. So that's why living cheap makes sense, because you have to realize that all that money you can invest into something, into your education, stocks, crypto, real estate, whatever, in the future. So that's why actually I was always thinking about it like this. Don't get me wrong, once I would have a, let's say, girlfriend and so on, I don't have a problem to do any changes, but I just don't see reason right now, being 24-year-old and kind of be super, like a lot of people are like, I'm independent, I'm super independent, I live already alone and I pay all my bills. You know what, sometimes it doesn't make sense. Which I'm not saying that you should live with your parents until 30, 35. Maybe that would be the reason you will not find any girlfriend, right? What I'm saying, you can just do it for a short period of time, whether it's 1 year or 2 years, you know, just do math, you know, if you can save like $1,000 on accommodation every month, it's quite a bit of money just for 1 year, right? Tip number 3 from Mark Cuban is actually, he was always doing his chores by his own until he sold his first company, right? And there is something about it, you know, like I don't pay anyone to do my dishes, to do my, you know, like washing clothes and so on. I do pay to make some, you know, food, because I go to restaurant, which I could save money on that. I know that's kind of maybe thing I can learn and improve, but overall I'm trying to do my stuff on my own. Even video editing skills, so far I was doing them by myself, but so now I'm thinking about hiring someone, because I don't have a time and a skill, and I'm more kind of worried about the skill, because sooner or later you have to improve quality of your videos. So sometimes don't be super frugal on the things that might make your life easier, right? That's why all these billionaires, they have a private jet, not just because it's cheap or expensive, but save time for them. They don't want to wait in the lines and be dependable on the like regular flight companies and so on. So have it in mind, you know, sometimes if it doesn't make financial sense, doesn't mean it's that bad, right? I like that kind of quote too. So make sure, like when you are younger and developing and creating some skills and creating wealth and so on, you try to save money on the skills and chores. Doesn't hurt, I would say, if you can cook for yourself and you don't have to go every day for steak and so on. Of course, it depends how much you make and so on. That I did learn from Mark Cuban when I was young, and there is way more tips that I haven't in mind. And there is a lot of people saying, you know, Mark Cuban, he was lucky, you know, he made all his money with broadcast.com and, you know, .com bubble and so on. And I had a friend this summer when I was hanging out in Oklahoma with 2 friends. They are both of them pilots and making quite a bit of money, you know, $500,000 a year, which is pretty decent. And one of them told me, you know what, Michael, I don't like him because, you know what, he's a good guy, but he was lucky. And I told him politely, you know, he's 30 years older than I am, the guy that I was talking to. And I told him, if you make 1 or 2 millions, I can see and I can understand somebody just was lucky, even though it's hard to do it, right? There will be way more luckier people, way more millionaires if it just take to be happy, right? But I told him, if you make billions, you are not just, you know, lucky person, right? You have to be super clever, super smart and so on. So that's the first thing. And then second, you know, a lot of people are saying he was investigated because he sold one of his small portfolio, like it was couple $100,000, like as an inside trade and so on. And you know what, he went to court, right? Not a random court like in Romania or Africa, but in the United States, you know, federal court, and he won, you know, so he didn't do anything bad. For example, what I like about him, when he bought Dallas Mavericks for $300 million, he put the table into like the room when the other salespeople were, and by that time salespeople were calling people to sell the tickets, right? So he started to call, and just people were able to see, man, so he's worth a couple billions and he is doing our job. I just kind of like this mentality and so on. And I think even now he does, you know, a lot of investing into like healthcare and so on, which is good business, right? Because it costs a lot of money, which is not best thing, but you can make a lot of money because margins are just so big in healthcare, right? So it's not for everyday people. You have to be rich in order to create or invest into healthcare businesses. But what I want to say, he's not doing anything bad that would harm our social. What I want to say, he does not do anything bad that might harm our society and so on. Look at his brother, drug addict, lawyer that, went kind of like bankrupt and being, all these bad habits and so on. I just see him as a, great guy, like Mark Cuban overall, which I'm not saying that, you should be following his advices and so on, but I'm just following his advices on business life and so on because what I found so many similarities with him, like how I see my life, and then I read something from him and it's like, man, it's kind of like similar things that he is meaning and saying, right? So I guess you have to be certain type of personality. So today we share like 3 tips from him how to be frugal or more frugal, or how to be like frugally efficient, right? So the first was that don't buy expensive car until age of 25. I like age of 25 because by that time you should be out of college, you should be already working on your debt, or if you are not in college, you should already have some business or some assets or some plans and so on. And I would see that it makes not the sense, but it's okay to buy nicer car for 20 grand or 25, right? But not before. That's probably what I would teach my kids as well. Then the second, accommodation, work on it because it's one of our biggest expense, right? Food and accommodation, and then like transportation. So accommodation is the first, so work on it, Is it really that you need that big apartment? Think about it. And the third tip from him was just kind of doing own chores by certain age, by certain net worth. Right now, it doesn't make sense for me to cut my hairs because, I don't have a time, I don't have a skill, or, do my videos, like edit them, because I can use the time to make more money, not wasting on editing or so on, right? Which I'm not saying it's wasting for me, but sometimes I have to make these decisions. But when I was younger, I was like, no, I'm gonna do as much as I can because my time is not worth a lot. Right now, like when I'm in United States, like literally I was going through the numbers, like a day of not working, for me it's $1,000 expense, right? Or like kind of profit loss, right? So it makes sense to go to work and not to go to TikTok that day or so on. So I just want to kind of encourage you, if there is something you might think and you might save on your skills or on your chores, just do it, right? And if it doesn't make financial sense, sometimes it's not bad as well. That's what I learned as well. With that being said, thanks for watching, and until next time, see ya.